Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about why training shouldn't change fundamentally when you are trying to lose body fat. And this is not intended as contest prep for physique or photo shoots or anything else, because I'm not into any of that. I have friends who are. I have friends who coach people in that stuff, and I have a pretty good idea of what they do. That's not what we discuss on this channel, because you shouldn't be doing that if you care about your health or your fitness. Okay? It's not healthy to be 7% body fat. Right? It's not athletic to be 7% body fat. You shouldn't be doing that. So that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about general fat loss for someone who needs to lose, 10 pounds of body fat, 20 pounds of body fat, 30 pounds of body fat, to be at a healthy athletic body fat, right? That's what we're talking about here. General fat loss for lifters and athletes. Okay? And I don't want this to be mistaken as, oh, this is how you get shredded. But I think what people need to think about with the training there, I think you will find many really good physique prep coaches who coach people who don't use drugs will tell you kind of the same thing though, won't they? Right? Do you see anyone who's a successful prep coach having people just throw in tons and tons of cardio for fat loss who don't use drugs to hold on to muscle? No. And that's one of the things I'm going to point out too. Cardio is not a particularly good way to lose body fat and maintain muscle. The research says it isn't. Research generally shows that in place of doing cardio, if you just eat less calories, you hold on to muscle better while losing the same amount of body fat. What? Yeah. Well, that's what the research shows. It's not just my opinion either. Again, there are plenty of competitive bodybuilders who have PhDs in the field who research this stuff because they really do care about it. What do you think guys who are into bodybuilding, who go into advanced degrees in these fields, want to do? They want to find stuff that works for what they do. So they want to research it. They want to get people in the lab and look at it. And that's what they find. And people say, but I know this guy or this person or that who gets ripped doing. Well, that's fine, but how many drugs are they using? Because that's what the research shows, that fasted cardio, for example, actually burns less fat. It burns less fat in the lab. It's been studied. Consider that maybe the guys who are successfully doing it is a cocktail of drugs involved. Okay. You don't think they have an advantage there? They're using fat-burning drugs during that window and muscle-sparing anabolics. That's what they're doing. That's actually not that great of a way to lose body fat and retain muscle. It really isn't, guys. And I'm not saying cardio isn't beneficial, but here's what I would say. Our training shouldn't fundamentally change when we are trying to lose body fat. And here's the point we're going to make. Anytime you're trying to lose body fat, are you trying to get weaker and lose strength and muscle? Is that your goal? No. Your goal should be to continue to improve. If you're losing body fat, you're hopefully not sacrificing muscle tissue. Is your goal to just lose weight, or is it to lose body fat? I mean, if you lose 10 pounds of muscle, you lose 10 pounds of body weight. What are you trying to do? Well, I would hope that most of us are trying to get better. We're usually losing body fat for our health, right? There's a big reason. Make a weight class in a sport. Better Wilks score as a power lifter, or maybe you just want to look better for your wife, for your girlfriend, or at the beach. Okay, that's fine. But are you trying to lose muscle and strength? No. So your goal should be to keep all of it. Well, how did you get big and strong to begin with? You don't think the same methods that you use to get big and strong are going to keep you big and strong while you're in a calorie deficit? Because here's how you lose fat: a calorie deficit. That is not a controversial topic. That's not a controversial subject. No expert in the field, including bodybuilders and athletes who are successful, disagree with that statement. The evidence is so overwhelming that to even argue against it today makes you look stupid. Like you look stupid if you try to argue against it today. I'm sorry, that's just the reality. Calorie deficit is what burns body fat. Am I saying all calories are created equal? No. Source your calories does have an impact. It's just a secondary impact compared to the calories themselves. Calories is the primary importance. Where you get those calories matters, but it accounts for a much, much smaller portion of the equation. Particularly matters more on the muscle preservation end, the recovery end, right? Some foods are going to be better than others. Balanced nutrition is going to be better. Not being deficient in anything, having a good balanced diet. Yeah, that will matter on the muscle retention side. Of course it does. No legitimate expert disagrees with that. They don't disagree with either of those facts. Anyone who does is a quack. And they're not supported by the evidence, either the real world evidence or the research. So, calorie deficit. Now, people will say, what do you mean our training shouldn't change? I can't train as hard. What do you mean you can't? You can train as hard on a calorie deficit. I mean, you can't train as much. So let's come over to the point. How do we determine our training volumes? I don't care what program you're running, what system you're running. In any good training system, how do we determine your training volume based upon your lifestyle and your recovery? If one of those variables changes, our training volume has to be adjusted. So in other words, we don't change the basics of our training because we're in a deficit. What all affects training volume? Well, your food intake does affect it. If you eat more, you can probably train more. Now we see the problem. Oh yeah, exercising to create a deficit, probably not that good. Not saying we shouldn't be pushing our recovery limits. Ideally you should, because that's how you're going to gain muscle and strength in a deficit. It's how you're going to keep what you have. But we have to scale training volumes, the amount of training we're doing based upon our lifestyle factors in recovery. Food intake is one of them. When you're eating more, you can train more. When you're eating less, you have to train less. That's true whether you're in a surplus or deficit. If you reduce the size of your surplus, you usually have to reduce your training load slightly. So we're just on a different point in the sliding scale. If your sleep changes, your stress management changes, you have to adjust training volumes, right? You all know this. I mean, if you've been working out any period of time or you've ever trained under any good coach, you already know this. So our training doesn't fundamentally change. We have to adjust volumes based around lifestyle. Let's come back over to that other point. People say, well, wait a minute. Well, what about cardio? So you're saying we should be doing more cardio when we're eating more? Yes, that's what I'm saying. And so will every good coach. We don't do cardio to lose body fat. That's stupid. The research says it's stupid. We do cardio for our health. We do cardio for our endurance. We do cardio for our work capacity, right? That's why we do cardio. We do cardio for those reasons. Doing it to lose body fat doesn't work very well. Eat less. But keep in mind, once you've been training a lot and you build a really high work capacity, your energy turnover goes really, really high. But if you're in a calorie deficit, you're going to have to train less, not train more. You have to train a little bit less, and that includes less cardio. If you do a lot of cardio, you'll have to cut it back. Otherwise, you're going to lose muscle, aren't you? But that's the same with any of our lifestyle factors. Any lifestyle factor that affects recovery and training fuel will affect your training volume of both your strength training and your conditioning. Our training doesn't change fundamentally. We should be getting bigger and stronger. And here's the thing. Our goal should always be to improve. If you're in a small deficit, you can't improve very quickly. It's going to be painfully slow, but it's certainly better than losing progress, isn't it? And that's the other thing. Guys say, well, I'm losing muscle and strength in a deficit. Well, you're cutting too fast. Why are you doing that to yourself? If you put in all the time to gain muscle and strength and performance, why would you sacrifice it? Because you're impatient? You're going to sacrifice your hard work because you're impatient. Why don't you just cut slower? Because again, let's come over to the point, we're not talking about doing a physique contest with a date where you have to be ready for a photo shoot or to step on some bodybuilding stage. We're talking about losing body fat because you need to for whatever purposes. The slower works better. Slower means you get to continue to gain muscle and strength if you do everything perfect. Faster means you lose progress. Well, that's not the goal. So our training doesn't change fundamentally. We're still trying to make gains. Your food intake needs to change. Maybe even the composition of your carbs versus fat might need to change to fuel your training, right? To fuel your recovery. But the training doesn't change fundamentally. We just adjust the volume a little bit. All the same concepts apply. The goals stay the same from the training too. We're always trying to improve. All right, guys, so that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.